Welcome back to the Wargrove of Woe. In today's video, I'm going to be explaining the Galletian Veterans rules as introduced in the latest season of Age of Sigmar. This video is aimed at new players who are trying to get into the game and have no idea what any of these things mean, so I will explain them accordingly. Without further ado, let's get started. So, to begin, what is defined as a Galletian Veteran? Galletian Veterans are any battle line unit that has 4 or less wounds and does not have a mount. This is simple enough. Something to keep in mind is any conditional battle line will count as Galletian Veterans if it meets the 4 or less wounds and no mounts requirements. So if you have a conditional battle line that meets those requirements, as long as you meet the conditions to make them battle line, they are considered Galletian Veterans. One of the main benefits of having Galletian Veterans is their melee range. In Age of Sigmar 3rd edition, melee range and coherency kind of messed with bigger blobs of infantry or units on bigger base sizes with small melee range. The Galletian Veterans update fixes this in a way. So, Galletian Veterans can target an enemy unit within 1/2 inch of another model from the Galletian Veterans unit. This means that larger based infantry or larger blobs of battle line are now viable again, allowing most, if not all of the models within the unit to get within range to attack, as long as they are Galletian Veterans. Another tool Galletian Veterans have access to is a new universal command ability, Overwhelming Assault. You can use this command ability at the end of your charge phase, and the Galletian Veterans unit that receives it must have 10 or more models. What it does is you can pick an enemy unit within 1 inch of the unit that received the command, and the targeted enemy unit must have a wounds characteristic of 4 or less, and you roll a dice. If the roll is greater than the number of models in that unit gets strike last. This is very powerful to help finish off low strength units or units that you haven't quite wiped off the board just yet. Next, we have the Galletian Veterans new core battalions. There's 2 of them. They have the exact same requirements for what you can fit in there. 2 minimum, 3 maximum Galletian Veterans can fit in these core battalions. Expert Conquerors gives every unit in that battalion counting as 3 models for contesting objectives. This essentially means if you have a large Galletian Veteran unit in the Expert Conquerors battalion, it's going to be very hard for your opponent to try and take objectives off of you, and they're going to have to essentially kill that unit for them to take the objective, or have an expert conquerors themselves. Then the one that I personally dislike with a passion is bounty hunters. It's very simple. You just get +1 damage to enemy Galletian veteran units in melee. These 2 core battalions I'm not a big fan of, and I personally have made a house rule in my gaming group that we do not play with these core battalions. In my opinion, the bounty hunters makes the game way too lethal for me to enjoy it, and expert conquerors just makes it more annoying than anything else. So if you want to play with these core battalions, go right ahead, and keep in mind if you are playing at a tournament, they will be using these core battalions, and so you could plan accordingly. But if you are just playing with a local group, consider leaving these out. I think that the rest of the Galletian Veterans rules, minus the core battalions, is great. They are an excellent addition to the game, but these core battalions just kind of make the game less fun for me personally. But regardless, let's move on. Before we wrap up the video, I'd like to give extra special thanks to my Patreon supporters. You guys are amazing, and it astounds me every day that I have such a wonderful community. And an extra special thanks to Nick Hoff. Lastly, we have the Proving Grounds rule. So Proving Grounds are a special objective that the person who goes second chooses at the start of each battle round. Each objective can only be a Proving Grounds once per battle, and you can only have 1 Proving Ground active per battle round. So what does a Proving Ground actually do? Well, Proving Ground objectives can only be contested by Galletian Veterans. Everything else is not considered contesting it for the sake of control over the objective. This provides a great deal of flexibility moving from each battle round to the next for who can control these objectives, and it gives yet another bonus for the person who decides to go second. Well, that was a short video explaining all of the new Galletian Veterans rules. These rules are a bit simple, but can be a little confusing to new players, and so I hope this video was helpful. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like or a comment, and if you want to see more of this type of content in the future, consider subscribing. This has been the Wargrove of Woe, and I'll see you guys next time.